Since we all encounter suffering in life, how can we take advantage of it to deepen our spiritual practice? This video is about how to suffer. As Thich Nhat Hanh said, if you know how to suffer, you suffer less. I will do a recap on the 3 kinds of dukkha that the Buddha taught. Then I will share 5 steps that can transform suffering into insight and compassion. The first 3 steps work on Dukkha Dukkha. The 4th step transforms Viparinama-Dukkha, and the 5th step targets at Sankhara-Dukkha. Welcome back. This is Dr. Song. And if you want to know how suffering transformed my life, you can watch this video here. The first kind of suffering, Dukkha Dukkha, the suffering of suffering, is any uncomfortable and painful experiences. Some of them are inevitable to all of us, including birth, sickness, and death. And if we are lucky, we get to also experience the suffering of old age. In order to transform the suffering of suffering, we need to stay open when we encounter suffering. Does it sound a little scary? It's like there's a storm coming and you want me to stay there and embrace it? We're afraid of suffering and want to get rid of it because we don't believe we're big enough to host the pain. This is a core confusion we have about ourselves. We perceive ourselves as small and limited. Even if you are a quite confident person, compared to a big storm, you probably still don't feel big enough to host what's coming. But what if you are the sky? Is the sky ever afraid of any storm? No, because it's much more spacious than any kinds of storm. And the good news here is we are the sky. Our inner nature, our inner space is as vast as the sky. When we are connected with our inner nature, we can host any kinds of suffering. The only thing that blocks us from accessing our inner space is our confusion. We are the sky, but we don't think so. We think we're just a tree under the sky or even a small bug on the tree. Luckily, confusion only blocks the connection between us and our inner nature. It has no power to damage it. So the vast space is always there for us. And I made a video here to help you reconnect to your inner Buddha nature. You may wonder, after I stay open, then what? The next step is to listen to your own suffering with compassion. Normally, we either totally ignore suffering or listen to it with judgment and criticism. Listen to your own suffering with compassion means letting go any of opinions and judgment you have about your own suffering. Because all these opinions only blocks the opportunity for your suffering to be fully hosted in your inner space. Our inner space, our inner nature is not only vast enough to host any kinds of pain, it's also warm enough to melt it. The warmth of our inner space is compassion. In this sense, compassion is not something we have to take from outside. We're all compassionate in our nature. The healing power is always within us. All we have to do is to unblock it. When we are both open and compassionate, we'll also be able to listen to the suffering of others, including those who have caused our suffering. This might liberate both of you. If you find it difficult to access your inner compassion, try listen to the chanting of Avalokiteshvara, the Buddha of compassion. Use the chanting of her name to wake up your inner compassion. I'll put the link to the video in the description below. I don't know whether this is the case for you. I notice that whenever I'm open, at some point I would snap out of this relaxed state. I guess it's because I'm not used to staying open. Although I feel more relaxed and free, I'm not used to this new state. It's something different. An ego does not like changes, so it finds any opportunity to snap out of it. That's why awareness here is very important. Whenever we notice that we're closed up again, with that awareness, we can let go the effort to disconnect or cut off and return to openness so we can continue to listen with compassion. And we might need to repeat the cycle again and again. First we're open, at some point we snap out of it, then we become aware of it, and we return to openness. Don't get discouraged if you experience the cycle again and again. Think about how long we have been behaving like this. At least for multiple decades, if not multiple lifetimes. But with each awareness, with each moment we become aware of what is happening, we plant a seed to eventually break this cycle. Now let's take a look at the second kind of suffering, Viparinama-Dukkha, the suffering of change, which refers to impermanence. In this case, even positive experiences can cause suffering because they don't last forever. So whenever they end, right there, suffering kicks in. The key to transform the suffering of change is to let go clinging to pleasant experiences, because this clinging, this desire to have things to stay forever, is the cause of the suffering of change. When we cling to anything, we're not really free, because our happiness is dependent on a thing or an experience. Even if it's a positive and pleasant experience, we are still enslaved. Because when that experience ends, which it will, we become lost and we suffer. And there's a common misunderstanding of letting go of clinging. Many people might think this means you cannot show any passion again and you can never enjoy your life again. Some people even take it to an extreme and become indifferent to everything. So what does enjoy life without clinging looks like? For example, when you have a quote-unquote good meditation, maybe your mind becomes really relaxed and it reached a state of thought-free. You just stay in that moment and fully experience what it is. That's no problem. But the moment you start to think, I want this experience again, or in the next session when your mind becomes racing again and you get frustrated, then you become clinging to a good meditation. The third kind of suffering, Sankhara-Dukkha, all-pervasive suffering, which means everything is conditioned, so they're constantly changing. But because we want things to be permanent, so we're constantly let down and feel dissatisfied, and therefore we suffer. The key to transform all-pervasive suffering is to examine who is suffering. In other words, who wants things to be permanent and who feels let down and dissatisfied? Apparently, our inner nature does not suffer. So who is suffering? You might say, I am suffering. Then who is this I? Then you might notice this I is a sense of limited and small self. But we know that this does not reflect who we truly are. So basically, this I is a delusion we have about our true existence. And because this I is confused about the reality of life and our true existence, it underestimates our inner strengths and overestimates the impact of outer experiences on our capacity to feel happy and content. And therefore, it suffers. How sad it is. Spiritually, we are the richest person in the world. We have unlimited gold mines underneath us. But because we don't know what we really have, we think we're poor and therefore we're suffering poverty. With the 5 steps I shared in today's video, we're able to transform suffering into insight and compassion. Then suffering becomes the door to liberation. That's it for today. If you haven't watched my guided meditation on our inner Buddha nature, watch this video right now. See you next time.